Hello, everybody. It's Mo again. In this section, we're going to be working with DNS. We're going to look at the details and the guts of what DNS is. Even though we've been looking at DNS for a long time right now, right? Almost every section, we're dealing with DNS because that's what Active Directory depends on. But I'm going to start DNS without Active Directory. What I have here is one server and two clients. Remember, DNS resolves fully qualified domain names to and from IPs, such as, let's say, www.google.com is a fully qualified domain name. www is the host name, which is really an alias, and google.com is a domain name. Let's say, for example, dc1.udemy.local is a fully qualified domain name. dc1 is the host name, udemy.local is the domain name. Altogether is a fully qualified domain name. So what I'm going to do is I have one server and two clients for this actual lab at the beginning, but then I'll be getting a second server. And for now, I just need this. So what I'm going to be doing is setting up the actual computer names and the IPs successfully. So look what I'm going to do here. I'm going to change the computer name. Let's say this one is actually going to be called, let's say Udemy SRV1, right? Udemy SRV1. So that's my first server. And the suffix, I have to have a fully qualified domain name, which is udemy.local. All right. Just like that. Now I have a fully qualified domain name. Then okay, all the way through. And I'm going to do the same thing actually on both client machines, just to make sure I have a fully qualified domain name. So I'm going to click OK, close, and restart. And I'm going to go to my first 10 machine, log on. These are actually on a work group. It's a new image, actually. I just created a new image on these computers. So they have nothing. So I have one server and two clients, as you see. And I'm going to go ahead and change the computer name over here. Let's say this is going to be called W101. And of course, I'm going to be appending the suffix. So let me just go ahead and change the system name itself because I need a fully qualified domain to work with DNS. I'm going to call this, let's say, 10 W10-1, right? W, it looks like the numlock was not on. There you go, W10-1 and more. See, I'm not joining a domain. I don't have a domain, right? And here I'm going to put udemy.local. Then, okay, see, I have a fully qualified domain name now. That's what DNS resolves. So that's W10-1. Then, okay, all the way through and see how this actually works out for us. And then I'm going to go to my second 10 machine and do the same thing. And then I'll configure IPs. All right. We will configure the IPs. And I'm going to show you that I cannot reach by a fully qualified domain name unless I install and configure DNS. All right. So let's see. My server, let me go ahead and let me log on to it. There we go. All right. And let me log on to my first client machine. It's actually restarting. So let me go ahead and do this on the second 10. PC, properties, change, and it's going to be called W10, right? So this is W10-2, and of course, udemy.local. Udemy.local as the domain name. So now I have a fully qualified domain name, right? See that? Then click OK, OK, so it could actually restart the system. Then I'm going to go back to my first client and just log on just to make sure we're in. All right. Let me go back to the server and configure a static IP address. Let me see what number I got from my wireless router, which has DHCP built in. So let me do status, details. I got 161. All right. 161. So I'm going to put over here 192.168.223, 161. And the default gateway going out is 2, and DNS, I'll be pointing to myself. Then OK, then OK, and close. Then I'll go back to the first 10 machine and I'll do ncpa.cpl, right? Looks like we typed it wrong. ncpa.cpl. There we go. It should open up. ncpa.cpl. Yeah, that's the one. I'm not understanding why it's not opening up. I mean, I could go also to control panel. Let me log on to my second 10 machine while waiting for that. There we go. NCPA, which is network control panel, dot control panel. ncpa.cpl. It should open up. If not, I'll just do it from control panel. It's trying to be stubborn. Let's see over here. ncpa.cpl. There you go. I mean, why it's not opening here, right? Okay, let me see if I could do it from control panel, see if I'm having an issue or not. Let me go to control panel, large icons, network and sharing center, change adaptive settings, right? And from here, I should actually see the card. It looks like it's giving me trouble, right? I'm trying to do it from here too. And it's like, no, I don't want to do that. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to reset this virtual machine. Let me just try and see, right? I'll see, right? Remember, my server is what, 161? So if I do status details, I got 161. So I'm going to go back to this client machine, see what number I got. I could leave the IP address obtained automatic here. It's an actual client, okay? But DNS is 161, okay? So 192.168.223.161. That's the DNS. If I do status, let me just show you what I got. I got 160, but I'm pointing to my server for DNS, right? Which means everything else is obtained automatic, except for the DNS. I'm pointing to my actual server. Let's see what's going on with this box over here, all right? Let's see. Let me log on and see how this actually works out for us. All right. And I'm going to do the shortcut. I want to see if it's going to give me trouble or not. This is actually a new image, by the way. There's really nothing on this client machine over here, right? Nothing at all. I just want to see why there was an actual delay. Okay, let me try again. ncpa.cpl. Maybe after the reset. There you go. Finally, right? Okay. So I'm going to go to IP version 4 properties, and I'm going to say leave it obtained, but DNS is pointing to the actual server, which is 192.168.223. Dot what? 161. Then okay. Then okay. I don't have DNS on the server. Remember, I never installed DNS on the server, which means if I try to get online, it's going to fail. How can I test connectivity to the internet? Just ping the website. Don't think about like, let me open the browser and see how this works. No, you want to do it technically, which means let me go ahead and ping an actual website. Can I actually get online? Right. So let me see. Ping www. Let's say google.com. If I cannot ping it, that means I don't have internet access. See that? I cannot get online. From any machine, I can't get online. You know why I can't get online? Well, guess why? Because I don't have DNS installed on that server. And I said all these clients are going to be pointing to that server for DNS, right? So the DNS doesn't even exist, right? The DNS server does not exist at all. www.google.com does not exist. See, it's not going to work. Look, this is 10.2. Let me try and ping 10.1 fully qualified domain name and see how this actually works out for me. It's going to tell me you can't. So I'm going to ping, let's say W 10 2, right? 10-2 dot Udemy dot local. Look at this. It's not going to find it, right? This is 10-2. Look at this. I'm talking about this computer over here. I don't have DNS configured. I don't even have DNS installed. See, W10-2, W10-2.udemy.local. Here, if I try to ping W10, let's say -1 dot Udemy.local, it's not going to work. I don't have DNS installed or even configured. I can't resolve domain names internally. How about the server? Can I ping? What is the server? 20. What is it called? Right? Let's go to the server just to show you. Here's the server. I type host name, or I could just do it from Udemy srv1 dot Udemy.local. So this is what I'm trying to ping. I could copy it. All right. You see this? I don't want to waste a lot of ink. And look at this. It's not pasting. Okay. Udemy srv1 dot Udemy.local. It's not going to work. I don't have a zone. I don't have DNS configured. I can't reach anything at all. Okay. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So what I'm going to do in our next lecture is install DNS and look at the zones and see how we could fix all these different problems. All right. So we'll see you guys in another lecture. For now, bye. Welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this lecture, what we're going to be doing is installing DNS on the server. And the first thing that I want to test is connectivity to the internet. Remember, we couldn't get online. So I'm going to go ahead and add the role of DNS. So let me go next and put a check mark in DNS, right? And all the way through. Because what I'm about to do is, while this is finished, I'm going to go to the command prompt and test connectivity to the internet. Let me actually change the color. Remember, we couldn't reach Google, we couldn't reach any of those websites because I was pointing to a server that doesn't actually have DNS. All right. So let me go ahead and change this so we could actually see better. Right. So let's see. There we go. All right. And I'm gonna ping www, let's say YouTube, right? Something different or anything.com. And if I press enter, look what it's doing over here. So it's actually in the process of doing so. It looks like DNS is actually working. See that? Now look, when I see request timeout, what it really means, it could be a firewall is actually stopping this, right? A firewall is actually stopping this. But I could resolve out to the internet. Why can I actually do that? Look at this. If I go to this machine also, because DNS is actually on the server right now. So if I do ping space www, let's say google.com. Look at this. It's resolving the number. Remember before it says I couldn't find it. But why is it resolving the number? Because there's something called the routines. Look at this. Let me try something different. Let's say ping space www.snapfiles.com. This is actually a good site for lots of software. So I could resolve the number. This is good. You see that? Right. So this is actually perfect. It's good timing out, which means it could be a firewall that is actually stopping this from doing so. But look at this. Let me actually show you something over here. If I go to this, you see DNS is here. If I go to tools, then I go to DNS. The reason why I could do all this, because if I go to the properties, there's something called routines, which are public DNS servers that find other DNS servers on the internet. Look, I'm going to remove these. See this? Look what's going to happen now. I'm removing these. Apply, click on yes. So none of them are there. Then, okay, I'm going to clear the cache and I'm going to restart the service. See this? I'm restarting the service. Now, watch this. If I try to ping again, let's say youtube.com, see this? It's fine. But if I try to ping something new, let's say www.yahoo.com, it's not going to find it. Why did YouTube work? Because it's cached on the local machine. You see, when you send a request to a DNS server to resolve something and it gives you the answer back, it stays cached on your computer for one entire hour. Where's the cache? I could do ipconfig slash display DNS. And I can see what's cached on my actual system. And it shows me who did I reach, what's cached for an entire hour. I'm not going to bother the DNS server. Well, if I kill the cache, if I restart the computer, the cache is gone. If I want to kill the cache, I do ipconfig slash flush DNS. And now if I do display DNS, I only see just nothing. So if I try to ping YouTube right now, watch this. This is amazing the way it works. It told me I can't find it. Before it was doing it because it was cached, right? If I restart the computer, the cache is gone. So over here, if I try to ping google.com, is like, yes, I know where it is. Well, how about if I do ipconfig slash flush DNS to kill the cache and then try again is like, I can't find it. And I tried to talk to my DNS server. My DNS server is like, I have no routines. I cannot tell you anything. Well, there's one thing that gets checked before the routines. It's called a forwarder. Normally, who's your forwarder? Your ISP. So if I click on edit, let's make Google as our forwarder. 8888. There's another one which is 8.4.4.8.8.4.4. Those are like free DNS servers. I'm just going to use one for now and click on OK. Then OK. Immediately, watch. It's like, yeah, I know where it is because of the forwarder. Do you guys see that? And if I try over here, it's like, yes, I know, because of the forwarder on the server. If it wasn't for the forward, it won't work. If I want to go back and put the routines back, copy from server, and I could copy from 8.8, this time, let's say 4.4. That's another DNS server from Google. And I got the numbers back. You see that? So first, whenever I want to try and get online, is going to check the forwarder. If the forwarder cannot, normally this is your ISP, then it checks the routines. This is for external name resolution. All right. Whenever you try to resolve something outside of your organization, it's either the forwarder or the routines. That's where you get the name resolution from. Okay. That's what I wanted to show you in this section. In our next lecture, we're going to be looking at the zones, which is for internal name resolution, right? So we'll see you folks later on. For now, bye. All right, everybody, welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this lecture, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at zones, internal zones, which is a forward lookup zone and a reverse lookup zone, and see what is the difference between them. Well, a forward lookup zone resolves names to IPs. A reverse lookup zone is the opposite, resolves IPs to names. Remember, we could not reach from one side to another. Like if I tried to ping, I'm actually on the second 10 machine. If I tried to ping, let's say W10 dash one dot udemy dot local, it's not going to work because I don't have any records and I don't have a zone called udemy.local. So my first thing is to create a zone to host this actual suffix itself, which is a forward lookup zone. So I'm going to right click, new zone, next. It's the first one. Normally, you always create a primary. Remember, a stub zone is something that I could actually do for name resolution from another server, such as a conditional forwarder. But for now, I'm just going to do a primary zone to store my records there. The zone name is udemy.local, right? And I'm going to go next, create a new file, next, and allow both for dynamic updates, which means the record should be updated automatically, and finish. So here's my forward lookup zone. See, I start with names, and these are resource records. We'll see what they are. But then I could also create a reverse lookup zone, which resolves numbers to names, primary IP version 4. All right. My network is 192.168.223. Then I'm going to go next, create a new file, go next, and allow both dynamic updates. Then when I double click this, I see records here. So forward lookup zone, it resolves names to IPs. Reverse does the opposite. Look, I see an A record. I could right click and create records manually, and we'll see. Like the 1A is for IP version 4, the 4A is for IP version 6. What is an A record? An A record is a record that resolves names to numbers. If I have 200 computers on the network, I need 200 A records so I could reach them by name. But where are the A records of the client machines? We'll see that in a moment. There's something called the start of authority. This keeps track of how many times your zone got modified. You see, I only modified it once, so I have the increment number as 1. The name server identifies how many servers are hosting udemy.local. Right now, there's only one. If I refresh, I don't see anything else. Well, can I reach Udemy SRV1? Can I ping Udemy right now? SRV1 dot udemy.local. Can I actually do this? Yes, I can. But look, the firewall's on. Let me go ahead and remove the firewall. So let me get rid of the firewall because the firewall's blocking the traffic. Remember before it's like, I can't find it. Well, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of the firewall itself. So let me go to the properties and off. Same thing over here, off. And this one is also off. Then okay. Right? And if I go back and I try again, it's like, yes, there's a reply. You see that? So when it times out, it doesn't mean DNS is a problem. It means there's a firewall blocking it. See, now I could reach by name because there's an A record for this machine itself. If I try to reach my 10.1, it's like, I can't because I'm sending a request to my DNS server. Do you know anything about W10.1? Well, my server says, let's take a look at DNS and show you I don't have an A record for W10.1. If I still go to my first 10 machine and try to ping, let's say, Udemy SRV1, right, dot Udemy dot local, I should be able to because there's a record for Udemy SRV1. If I try to ping, let's say W10 2 dot Udemy dot local, it's not going to work because I don't have an A record for this. If I restart the computer, let's say that second 10 machine, watch this, player, power, and restart. This will generate an A record automatically. What if I want to generate it without restarting? I mean, I just have to give it some time. There's an actual command line that I could do. ipconfig slash, remember, this is the first 10 machine, register DNS. It's going to tell me it requires elevation. Well, thank you for saying that. So I'm going to open the command prompt as administrator, right? As you see. And let me just, I could just do color space 2, as you see, and CLS and CD slash. It looks like we didn't do it from the beginning. All right. So now I tried to do what? I tried to do this ipconfig slash register DNS. This sends an A record to be registered under the DNS server from which machine? 10.1. So guess what? I go to my server, I refresh over here, I'm going to see 10.1. And look, why do I see 10.2? Because I restarted 10.2. And look at the start of authority. It tells me how many times it got changed. All right. Okay. So I should be able to ping right now. Let's see over here. w102.udemy.local. But look, it's timing out, which means, oh, firewall. All right. So let me go ahead and remove the firewall from here. So now I could be able to reach fully qualified internally with names because I have an A record for each machine. So the A record is the reason why I could reach internally by names. Without an A record, I won't be able to reach. So when I restart the computer, it generates the A record automatically. Or I could open the command prompt and do ipconfig slash register DNS to register the A record, right? Or I could create the A records manually, as I showed you, which it's something that you won't actually be doing. Let me turn off and turn off. So if I go back over here, I should be able to reach it. See, because I got rid of the firewall. Because I'm sending the request to my DNS server. See, W10-2. Look at this. Let me just show you again over here. If I do W10, I'm on 10.2. So if I try to ping 10.1 over here, right? So look at this. If I try to ping 10.1, let's say ping space www. Actually, I should be able to get online, right? Which is google.com. This is fine over here. Google.com. So it's timing out because of the firewall. But if I try to ping, I wanted to put something in the cache, and I'm going to do W10 dash what? One dot what? Dot Udemy dot local, right? Udemy dot local, and see this over here. I could. Okay, well, why? Because there's an A record. Well, guess what? I'm going to go to my server right over here, right? So here's my actual server, and I'm going to open DNS, and I'm going to get rid of that record. Look, I pinged which one? W10.1. So I'm going to delete W10.1 and click yes. Now I'm going to try again. Look at this. It's reaching. Why? Yes, it's cached. Why? Because look, ipconfig slash display DNS, and it's actually cached. I will see the record of 10.1 in the list over here. Let me show. Look, remember Google? I did it on purpose so I could show you. And look at this. Where's 10.1? Here it is. Okay, let me remove the cache by doing flush DNS. ipconfig slash flush DNS, right? That's what I'm doing over here. Then I'm going to try again and ping W10 was like, oh, I can't find it. The A record is not in the list over here. You see this? The A record is not in the list. So I have to go back to where? To my 10.1. I could either restart it or I could create it manually. But let me go back and show you again. Here's 10.1 and do the ipconfig register DNS one more time. See this? Now registration is done successfully, as you see, right? So if I go back to my server, watch this, and I refresh over here, I could see the record over here. So I go back to the 10.2. It's like, can I reach the 10.1? Yes, you can. See, that's the purpose of the A record. So the A record resolves names to what? To IP addresses. Without an A record, I won't be able to do that. So A records are under forward lookup zone. But a reverse lookup zone deals with something called a pointer record. The pointer record is the opposite. It resolves what? Numbers to names. Well, I could generate the pointer records manually from here. If I put a check mark, update pointer, it's going to automatically do it. And it should do it for the rest of them. You see that? And my server. So the pointer record will be actually in the list. So there's no A records on the reverse. Remember, a reverse lookup zone resolves numbers to IPs. A forward lookup zone resolves names to IPs. I don't have to create the pointer record manually. I could just refresh and they should be populated automatically. See, it shows the IP on the left side and the name on the right side. See that? IP on the left and the name on the right. That's what I see over here. So this is actually a good thing. This is one thing about zones. We're going to be working with more and more resource records, but so far we just looked at what? Name server, start of authority, a record, pointer record. How about this? If I go back over here and I right click and I create, let's say, a canonical name. Assuming that my server is hosting a website, I create www, I browse and say, that's actually hosted on where? Server one. You see that? Then okay. Now, if I go back over here and I say ping space www.udemy.local, watch this. I could reach the server. It's like pinging the server because I have an alias. See, this is a fully qualified domain name. Look at the serial number 5. I'm going to refresh. Look, now it's 6 because I modified it. Okay, how about this? If I right click and I say new mail exchange record, what is a mail exchange record? It identifies the location of the email server. So I'm going to specify and say that it's located at server one. I mean, today, you're probably using Office 365, Google Apps, right? But I'm going to do forward lookup zone, Udemy, and specify that it's actually on server one. Then I'm going to click on OK. You see that? Just like this. So I'm going to refresh and I have the actual exchange. Look at the serial number. And you see that? So let me take a look and see at the reverse lookup zone. The rest should be generated. It may take some time. I could actually restart the service and see how this actually works for us. All right. So these are internal name resolution, as you see, right? For internal name resolution, I could have created like manually from here and I could browse, but eventually it will be actually in the list. But I only have one server for name resolution right now. So I looked at the forward lookup zone. I looked at the reverse lookup zone. These are two things that I actually looked at, right? So this is typical what I actually do under the DNS server. All right. What we're going to be looking at next is I'm going to look at more DNS functionality. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be hosting Active Directory on the actual server itself because right now the zone is locally onto this actual hard drive. So our next lecture, we're going to be actually installing Active Directory on the server. And we'll see how we could fault tolerance and like load balance multiple DNS servers. So we'll see you folks soon in another lecture. Bye for now. Okay. All right, everybody, welcome back. It's Mo again. So in this lecture, what we're going to be doing is installing Active Directory on the actual server because it will generate more resource records. Okay, so for now, look, I don't see anything as SRV records. And the only time I see that, which are like service records, once I install a service such as Active Directory. So I'm going to go ahead, go to Manage, Add Roles and Features. Next, next, next. We did this a lot. All right. And let's go ahead and can see DNS is grayed out. It's already installed. And let me install the role. After I do so, I'm going to promote the server to a domain controller. All right. And then after that, after the restart, I want to take a look at and see what resource records we actually have under the zone. That's what I want to see. What resource records we have under the zone. Let's give it a moment until this finishes out. Until now, we never touched the second server, but we're going to bring that up. And since we're going to be storing the zones in Active Directory and all that, so we're going to be seeing that in details. Things that we covered also prior. But you see, like this section is talking about DNS. There's more details. You get to know more about resource records. What's the purpose of them? How to troubleshoot, right? So, and we're going to be using the NS lookup, which is the name server lookup utility. It's going to help us a lot to troubleshoot. I was just waiting. I want to see the population of these records over. Let me refresh. And still it's not there. So I may have to create it manually. So I do see it for the 10. I should see them for the rest. I may have to restart the service, but we'll see. Remember, I was waiting also for the rest of the pointer records, which means it's resolving numbers to actual what? Names. So we'll see that. We're going to come back to that. This one's almost finishing up. Let's give it a moment and see how this actually works out for us. Almost there. Let me know if you guys have any questions. All right. All right. Let's see. Almost there. So we could actually promote. So we're going to be setting up our new FARs, which is the actual what? parent domain, right? The parent domain itself. And see how that works out for us. And then from there, it will populate, the rest of the resource records. So let's go ahead. Look, I just want to show you. Look at the serial number 7. Let me just refresh. It's 7. Okay. The reason why I'm actually doing this because I want to show you it's going to be changing. So I'm going to put, of course, Udemy.local. It's going to find it immediately because I do have a zone for it. Right. So this is normal. And let me actually put the password and put the password here, right? And continue. We don't need DNS delegation. The DNS zone is there. Then next, and finish. Let's give it a moment. Next. It wants to verify that it's unique, like nobody else actually has it, right? And let's see how this works out for us. Almost there. And install. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video for now. It may take 5 minutes so we don't waste time. All right. We'll see you folks in a moment. All right, folks, it's back. So let me go ahead and log on and show you the DNS server right now. I want to show you the new actual records, which are the SRV records, which are service records. Since this server is hosting Active Directory, it's going to generate new records. Remember the serial number? It was like the number 7. Well, watch this. Look at this right now. Let me show you how many times the zone got modified because now it's actually hosting Active Directory. So if I go back and go here, 27. Look, all these folders here are because of Active Directory. For example, when I open sites, I'm going to see default first site name records about this. You see that? It's a GC, it's a global catalog. That's the port number, Kerberos, LDAP. That's a protocol that Active Directory depends on. Do you see all this? Like when I open TCP, I could see these records here. This tells me that it's actually hosting Active Directory. That's what it's hosting, AD, right? I could tell from the DNS server how many domain controls do I have right now. I could tell it's only one, and it's actually a global catalog server, right? So that's a good thing over here. So once I do that, I could see exactly what's actually happening. This is funny. It's not doing it. Let me just go ahead. This is for 10.1. Let me do the pointer, browse. You get a chance to see this manually. And let's say 10.2, right? And the same thing, I want to get one for the server. Normally, it should get generated automatically. Let me just do that for the server. There we go. So what does this mean? I can actually go right now to my client machine, let's say one of the 10 machines, and use what command? NS-lookup. Let me close this out, right? I'm actually on 10.1. So if I do NS-lookup, space, let's say the IP address of 10.2. 10.2 looks like got shut down. Let me turn it back on. It went to sleep mode after 10 minutes to save on power. So if I want to see 10.2, I could see that 10.2 IP address is 160, right? Is actually 160. So if I do 192.168.223.160, it tells me this belongs to 10.2. So I resolve from number to name. The first two lines tells me which server gave me the answer, what's the IP address of that server. Like who's my DNS server is the first two lines, but then it tells me who's 160 W102. If I said NS lookup, for example, space, let's say W 10-2 dot Udemy dot local, it tells me what's the IP address. You see that? If I say NS lookup space www dot google.com, it's going to give me the IP address. It tells me which server resolved it. See, non-authoritative, which means it's coming from an external DNS server. The first four are actually IP version 6. This one does not say non-authoritative, which means it is authoritative, which means it's coming from a trusted DNS that is hosting on server 1. See, that's how I could test name resolution using NS lookup, right? If I do, for example, NS lookup and I just do www, it tells me, oh, that belongs to server 1. You see that? I could resolve internally and I could actually resolve what? Externally using NS lookup, name server lookup. So these are the records that I would actually you could know when it comes up to troubleshooting DNS. The problem that I'm actually facing right now is I only have one server for DNS, and that's why when I go to my zone, there's only one name server. Well, before I even think about anything, on my next lecture, what we're going to be looking at is hosting Active Directory on the second server. So we're going to be setting up a replica. So we'll see you folks soon in another lecture. Bye for now. Hi, everybody, welcome back. It's Mo again. This time we're going to be installing DNS on the second server. We need like an additional DNS server for backup for fault tolerance. So watch this. I have server one and server two up. Let me just log on to server one and show you. So right now I only have one DNS server, and I could tell actually by looking there's only one name server. Go back and log on to this machine and install DNS on the box. But before I install DNS, I have to set up this server as an additional domain controller, as a replica, right? So I need to host Active Directory on it, right? And then I'll be concerned how DNS is going to actually sync on it. So first, I want to give it a static IP address. Let me see what number I got, and I'll be pointing to my server one for DNS. So let's give it a moment. Let me see what I got over here. And let's take a look at the network settings. All right. Let's see. So I'm going to be using a static IP address. Let me just check status details. So 162, that's the next available number, and DNS will be pointing to server one. So this is 162, right? 192.168.223.162. Default gateway is .2, and DNS will be pointing to server 1, 161. Then okay, then close. Let me change the computer name, right? Udemy SRV2, right? I'm not going to put the suffix, okay? Udemy SRV2, then okay. Because once I make it as a replica, automatically it's going to go ahead and do what? And add the suffix to it. Let me close and restart. After this, I'm going to be installing Active Directory domain services, and I'm going to promote it as a replica. It's going to be an additional domain controller. That's what I'm going to have. Let's give this a few seconds until it logs in. All right. Let me look at a full screen actually, so you can see better. All right, why not? We're only looking at one box right now. And let's give it a few seconds until we get there. There we go. Let me do this again so it does the screen better. Still. Right? Okay, there you go. That's what I was actually looking for. All right, let me just put the password and log on. So my first thing that I need to do is install the role Active Directory Domain Services. Let me actually do that first. Active Directory Domain Services, and then promote it to be an actual replica, right? That's what I want. Let's give it a moment. All right. I'm going to wait. It's better to wait until it refreshes instead of like forcing it. I'm going to wait until this actually stops loading, right? It looks good right now. There you go. So now I could go manage, add roles and features, next, right? And install Active Directory domain services and all the way through. Because right now I only have one DC. Remember, I only have one domain, one forest, one tree, and the tree only has one domain, which is a parent domain, udemy.local. This one is going to be a replica, like an additional domain controller to the parent. That's what it's going to be, an actual replica. So let's give this a few moments. After it's done, I will promote to a DC. Oh, it's called SVR32. That's fine. So that's right now. Let me see. SVR. Yes. Okay. It doesn't matter. The other one is SRV1. This is SVR32. Nobody said anything. All right. Let's continue. Because if you notice something, if I go back to my initial server, I only have one name server. And I open the TCP folder, I only have what? Just for Udemy SRV1. This means there's only one domain controller that is hosted, right? From DNS, I could judge everything. I could tell like how many domain controllers do I actually have? Like DNS actually tells me everything too. DNS is like the backbone If DNS crashes, guess what? Nothing in your organization will work at all. Nothing. Let's see. This one's almost finishing. Let me promote it to an additional DC. There you go. So it looks like it's finishing up. All right. Almost there. These roles, are you going to be installing them like every day? Of course not. We're just doing this for practice. 90% of the time, or even 95, you'll probably never do this. Everything's already set for you. In some cases, I probably need to add another replica. Maybe the company's hosting a new branch office. I need to set up like different domain controls on a different site. I would probably need to work with domains and trusts. My organization is going to merge with another or is going to take over another company. So these are not common things that you'll be actually using. Okay, let me look at a full screen. And over here, Udemy dot local, right? Change, and I'm going to put Udemy slash administrator and the password because I'm trying to make a replica. And next, right? I'm not going to put DNS yet. Okay, I'm going to make it as a GC, just a GC, and let me put the password. And next, 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 and install. This will take time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video. And when it's done, when I reach the logon screen, I'll be back. So we'll see you folks in a moment. All right. It's actually back. All right. Let me actually log on and show you. There we go. Let me just put the password. I don't have DNS yet on server 2. But if I go to my initial server and refresh over here, look what I see. I see the other records. Look at this. See that? It generates all the records, which means I could tell that it's hosting Active Directory. But if I check under the zone, I do not see another name server record, just one still, right? Which means everybody has to be pointing just to one DNS server. My job right now is to install DNS on the second server. Even though if I do that, I'm not going to see the zone there. Okay. The zone will not be in the list. So let's give this a moment. And I want to install DNS on the second server. This is something we did through Active Directory sites and services in a previous lecture. But it's something I want to go over again so you actually can see that in action. Let's wait until once I see the file server, that means I can go to manage and add the role itself. So let's give it a moment. Almost there, right? Refresh. Let me see. Manage, add role and features. There you go. All right, so I'm going to go next, next, as you see, next, and I'm going to put a check mark only for what? Just DNS. Because I want to have at least two name servers. When I say two name servers, that means two DNS servers, right? So I'm going to put a check mark in DNS, add features, next, 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 and install. All right, let's give it a moment. Why will the second server DNS will not get populated? Well, guess what? Do you remember? I have to go back to the first server and store the zone in Active Directory. If I don't store the zone in Active Directory, the zone is locally on the C drive under server 1. So it's not going to replicate to the additional domain controller. So let's take a look and see. Let me cancel this. We're going to come back to this. And I'm going to see what is the difference. By default, I have dynamic updates, but then there will be an option for secure only, right? We'll see that. But for now, the DNS is just getting installed here. I just want to make sure that we actually have DNS on the second server and the zone will not get populated, right? That's what I want to see. Let's give it a moment. Could be finishing up. Remember, you could always close and it will still be installing in the background, right? Yes. It's almost there. Should be finishing up soon. There you go. Now, I'm going to go to tools. Let me refresh this, and I should see DNS in the list, right? Now, if I go to tools and open DNS, expand the server, expand forward lookup zone, I see nothing because the zone is not stored in AD. So in the next lecture, we're going to see how we can store the zone in Active Directory and how it's going to replicate to the second server. We'll see you folks in another lecture in a moment. For now, bye. Welcome back, everybody. It's Mo again. So, in this lecture, what we're going to do is how can we store the zones in Active Directory so the zone gets replicated to the second server. So, if you recall, let me just log on to my second server and show you here that even though I actually opened DNS, I'm not going to see the zone. Let me go back to server one, all right, and log on. Watch this. So if I check over here and I refresh, I only see one name server. So what I need to do is I need to right click on the zone, properties, change, and store the zone in Active Directory, which means I'm going to store it in the database of Active Directory. Then click OK. Then yes. And look what I'm going to do here. I'm going to change it to secure only. I'm going to show you what this actually does. This will affect the client machines. All right. But for now, I want to see if the zone gets replicated. Then apply. Then OK. I'll restart the service just to refresh. And let me go ahead and refresh the zone over here. I still see one. Let me go back here, restart the service on this machine, and then refresh the actual zone. And there you go. I have the zone. Now I have two name servers, you see, which means this server, I could go to local server here, right? I have two DNS servers. They're hosting the same zone in case one fails. There's another one that is actually up and running. This is 162. And I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to say my alternate one is 162. See that? 223, 162. Then okay, then okay. Then I'm going to go back to my first server, go to Server Manager, and make sure my preferred is pointing to 162, and the alternate will be itself. So if I go Properties, right? So I'm going to change this to 192, 168, 223, 162, and alternate will be pointing to itself. This is the proper way of actually doing so. In case this one fails, I'm pointing to myself. All right, then okay, then okay. Well, what do they mean by secure updates? So let me refresh this. I see two actual ones, but look at this. So I have properties and I see secure only. What does this mean? This will reflect to the client machines. Let's say W101. Okay, let me start W101 over here and show you something. W101 is not part of the domain. Remember, it's actually on a work group. So let's take a look and see how this works for us. Give it a few seconds, because we never joined this to the actual domain, right? This is not part of the domain. Let me put the password and log on. So if I go to this machine and I say, you know what, delete the record, okay? And then I'm going to come back over here and say, let me open the command prompt as administrator and try run ipconfig/register DNS, all right? So let me just do this, color 2, and do ipconfig space/register DNS. Is it going to register the A record? No, it's not. You know why? Because I said, if you want to register records into my zone, you better be on my domain. And this machine is a work group. Look at this. Let me just show you here. This PC, properties, it's still a work group. Okay, so if I go back here and I change this to non-secure and secure, watch this now. And I go back here and I say, let me do the registration again. Watch this now. Okay, let me refresh. And now I see it. Do I see the difference? I'm going to delete it again. And let me go back to the properties. So I always like to leave it as secure only and leave it as secure only. Then okay. So what I have to do is I really have to go to my network settings first of all here. Remember, I have an extra DNS server. So I'm going to open my network settings, go to the properties, right? Go to IP version 4 properties, and I'm going to say an alternate DNS server, which is 162. In case one fails, I have another one up and running. And I'm going to join the domain. And then you'll see it's going to register the A record. So let me click on here, change settings, right? Change and domain and Udemy, right? Dot local. And let me authenticate, which is using what? Kerberos as an authentication protocol. That's the one that verifies the username and the password. Let's click OK, OK. And once it restarts and it logs in, I'm going to see the record. All right. So let me see here. I don't see it yet. All right. It's not in the list. Let me wait for this one to come up. It should not take long. So I'm not going to be pausing the video. Let's just stare at the screen and see how this actually works out for us. So I always like to do secure only. That's when I store. The only time you get this option is if you store the zones in Active Directory, you get the secure only option. So that's what we're going to be looking into. Let's give it a moment. I'm going to log on to the domain. Then I'll refresh. I should see the A record automatically because this machine is actually part of the domain. All right. It's part of the domain. That's what I want to actually look into. Let's give it a moment. Almost there. All right. And I should get the logon screen soon. All right, there we go. Let me log on to the actual domain. I'm going to put Udemy, right, slash administrator, let's say, and then the actual password itself, right? Because I need to authenticate with the domain. And once I do so, let me just refresh over here. There you go. You see that? So this is DNS. This is the most concepts I would say you need to know to work in the field as when it comes up to DNS troubleshooting, installing, and configuring. Well, this is done for this section. Our next section, I'm going to show you how to set up Windows 2019. And then let's say the company you're going to be working with merging with 2022. You're going to be upgrading. How can we merge between 2019 and 2022? That's going to be our next section. Is going to be a lot of fun. So let me tell you this for our next section, what we actually need is two servers. One of them is going to be 2019, the other one is going to be 2022, and I'll do a Windows 11, even though most commonly you'll see Windows 10 in a corporate environment, but it's the same thing when it comes up to a client system. So one server of 2019, one server 2022, and a Windows 11 machine. So we'll see you folks in our next section. For now, bye everyone.